Now, there is a reason that it's important for a woman to be both feminine and submissive with you, right? There is a reason why it is very important. It's different from a woman being masculine submissive, because a woman can be submissive but masculine submissive, which means that you will have to be feminine with her in order for her to bend to you, right? So an example of that would be those women who want a man to be overly emotionally empathetic, sympathetic, and understanding to over-communicate in order for her to compromise with his point of view, or a woman who's not going to get on a man's program unless that man is manipulating her or being abusive with her or doing different things to hurt her. You shouldn't have to hurt a woman in order for her to get on your program. And you should be able to walk away. But I understand, what I will say is this, and I'm not advocating for abuse, but I do understand sometimes, guys, y'all in prematurely integrated relationships. Maybe a woman says she's going to do one thing, did another. Maybe she's masculine submissive with you, and she was cooperative with you just because you were communicating. But then there's certain scenarios to where it's very important that a woman's feminine and submissive. And I'm going to explain what those scenarios are. As a man, you have your mindset, you have your vision, you have your purpose, you have your passions. You have certain things that are important and vital to you. And one thing that you don't want to be in a position of is in a position where not only do you have to fight against life, right, to move forward in the world, but now you also have to contend with your own woman. It may be a woman who will do certain things that you say. It may be a woman who will cooperate with you. A lot of guys out here, they don't even get cooperation, so they're not going to understand what I'm talking about. Like, they don't even get women who will do anything that they say. So in their mind, they say, well, as long as she communicates and we compromise, that's a healthy relationship. Shut your bitch ass up. I'm not talking about you, right? This is above your pay grade right here. And I ain't even talking about money. If you think it has something to do with money, this is above your pay grade right here. So what I'm talking about is this right here. You need a woman who's feminine and submissive with you, because if she's masculine submissive, she's going to go through periods of psychological reactance. So like, let's say you tell a woman, this is what we doing. She'll, oh, why? This, and that. She want to have a conversation about the shit, right? She want to talk about it, right? Or let's say there's a woman who, let's say you message her, or you had a conversation the day before, and then the woman is going to sit there and wait and try to drag it out to see when you're going to hit her back first, right? Like the type of woman who's going to wait to hit you back first instead of being in her feminine energy and desiring to talk to you so much that she don't even care if she messaged you last, right? A woman who's heavily caught up on the idea of symmetry instead of polarity, right? So that means if you say, do this for me, a woman's going to be like, well, what are you going to do for me? Right? When you're dealing with women in that particular way, you may be the type of guy who says, you know what, I can compromise. You know what, you just tell me what you want. What you got to understand is within that woman's nature, there's something within her nature who does not respect the man who's feminine. So when you're taking a feminine dominant stance, it's going to work for a little while of you being dominant and just communicating, or you bending on your word, right? Or you seeking her to say what she wants in order to do the things that you want to do, right? And that's going to sound cool at first, right? You're going to be down with that at first, right? But after a while, that level of submissiveness that she shows with you is going to go down. It's not going to go up with time. It's going to go down with time, right? And as it goes down with time, you're going to recognize that as much as that woman says she loves you, as much as she says she loves you, she's going to be unable to get with your program. She's not going to truly respect you as a man. She's going to respect you as a person. Like if she's a nice girl, that's what masculine submissiveness is. It's typically a nice girl, right? She will try to be somewhat reasonable, but there are going to be certain issues and certain topics to where it's going to be very difficult for her to bend, very difficult for her to be malleable, very difficult for her to be teachable, right? She's going to deal with you based off of her social battery. So maybe when you first start dealing with her, she's going to have a lot of energy to deal with you in a particular way, right? But if she's masculine submissive, every time she does something, it's going to take a little bit out of her cup, right? But it's not something that she enjoys that being taken out of her cup. She's doing that in a somewhat credit-based transactional way. You don't want a woman who respects you off of credit. See, when a woman respects you off of credit, things that you can do as a masculine dominant man will be things that a woman is going to feel like is taken away from her. So eventually she's going to start to resent you for being masculine and dominant, because she feels like, well, I have to bend to you all the time, and I have to do what you say all the time, and it drains me. I get tired, right? I'm tired of pretending to do this, right? She gonna sound like she on your program one day. She gonna get whatever you talking about, because maybe in those moments when she gets on your nerves, maybe the moments where she fuck up, right? She can't follow through. She gonna feel guilty. Then she gonna do that stuff. But what you got to understand is when she's doing things out of guilt and obligation, that leads to, and what I used to say in my videos, I used to say that guilt, or no, what the damn I used to say. But basically, obligation leads to resentment. Resentment leads to entitlement, right? And entitlement leads to spite. If someone gets an opportunity to feel like they see you in the wrong, if someone gets an opportunity, even if you're not wrong, if they could interpret it that way in their mind, then they're going to use that as an opportunity to display their lack of respect and their lack of desire for you, right? Which means that you could be dealing with a woman in a particular way, but the moment you want to be more so integrated, you want to say, you know what, hey, you've been on my program for a while, I'm going to give you a little bit more energy, I'm going to spend a little bit more time with you. You spend a little bit more time with the woman, she might pull back on the pussy, right? You spend a little bit more time with the woman, she going to be more difficult to deal with. It's a reason that you need to deal with a woman who's feminine submissive instead of masculine submissive, because it's about a woman being receptive to your dominance and a woman being receptive to your masculinity. And you don't want to be in a situation where there's always this matter of, if you tell her jump, she has something to say back, right? Like the example I like to give, and I gave this example before, it's like if you're walking down the street, you're walking next to her, right? You tell her to stop. When you tell that woman to stop, is she going to listen and stop immediately, right? If you put your arm in the way, is she going to feel like you're being abusive, right? And you say, oh, hold up, stop, shut up, stop. If she gets in her social programming, if she gets psychologically reactant, feels like you're taking away from her agency, she's going to conflate you with losing her freedom. She's going to conflate your guidance with something that's drawing her away from what your goal is, what the goal is, because she doesn't see you as a unit. She doesn't perceive your guidance as the best direction for you. But you could be telling her stop because the car's coming and she's not paying attention. Which could be playing with fire, which could be her disrespect, which could be her getting to a point where out of her psychological reacting, she's getting to the place where she's about to say something that's going to be a deal breaker. It could be her getting to a place where she's going to say something that she can't take back. It could be at the point where she's about to behave in a way to where you're going to have to pull away from her. You're going to have to put her on ice. And with a masculine submissive woman, maybe the first few times you put her on ice, she gonna be able to she gonna, get feminine with you, right? Then she gonna bend, but every time she bends, it's chipping away at how she views herself, because she conflates her masculinity, she conflates her independence with her self-worth and her self-value. So she feels like she doesn't love herself if she's doing what you say. Sometimes you tell her to stop, it's because it's a car coming. That car may be, she's about to put herself in a situation where she's going to try to challenge you in a way to where the only directions for you to go in is for you to walk away, right? Or for you to get aggressive. And you don't want to do either one of those things. Now, there are some women who they're more so playful in the way that they're playful about it and they don't really mean that shit. So if you get a little aggressive with them, then that's just going to turn them on. That's just part of foreplay for them. And I don't even say deal with brats like that, because that shit can go far. The worst experiences that I've ever had with women were with brats who called themselves submissive, right? They weren't really submissives, they were brats. So the thing to understand about these particular scenarios is you have to understand that there are particular women who may come off as cooperative, who may come off as submissive, but really they're masculine submissive. And that cooperation is transactional. But the transaction for that cooperation is your femininity. If the transaction for the cooperation is the femininity, she's going to lose further respect for you over time. Right? She's going to deal with you out of her social battery. See, the thing about a masculine submissive woman versus a feminine submissive woman is that a feminine submissive woman, she relishes in your dominance. She relishes in your masculinity. You giving her clear instructions, telling her what the fuck to do is something that turns her on. She's not worried about the reciprocation as much as what she's doing is because she desires it. What she's doing is because she enjoys it. So even if you didn't tell her to do things, if she knows you like something, she's going to go out of her way to do it just because you hinted at it. Right? And that's like some 9 level of sexual attraction shit. Like when a woman has that 9 level of sexual attraction for you, when she's feminine and submissive with you, then she enjoys sucking your dick just for sucking your dick. She's not doing that to avoid sex. She's not doing that transactionally, like, okay, what am I going to get out of it? Are you going to eat my pussy now? No, see, when a woman's feminine submissive with you, you can do something called pleasure denial. And that pleasure denial can work like edging outside of the bedroom, which means that you can have that woman give you head 1, 2, 3 times, right? That whole time that desire is building up. So when you finally have sex with her, damn near the minute you put it in, she coming already. Then she coming back to back to back to back. Another thing about a masculine submissive woman is that she's going to limit herself and how much sexual pleasure she allows you to give her. So she may only want to have 1, 2, 3 orgasms, or she might not have any orgasms at all. Most women who don't have orgasms is because they're masculine submissive. And then the only time they get to have orgasms is with feminine dominant men who go on the toxic side of pushing beyond their boundaries, pushing beyond their limitations. But guess what? With some of those women who are masculine submissive, when you do that, they get into their social programming, and then now they're going to look at you from a perspective of seeing you as abusive, or maybe even seeing you as a rapist, right? Another form of a masculine submissive woman is a woman who says, oh, I'll do all that stuff, but you got to pay all the bills, right? So that'll be a woman who is basically in one form or another a prostitute, right? In one form or another, she's a sex worker. In one form or another, she's really a masculine woman. She just thinks that the logical decision to make is for her to put herself in a position where she just makes sure that she's getting enough out of it. Now, to a man who hasn't experienced feminine submissive women, they'll think that that's a good idea. It's like, okay, I don't have any issue paying the bills. But one thing I always say is this: whatever you trade for sex will eventually be leveraged against you, right? So there is no guarantee, there is no obligation, there is no duty, there is no guarantee that a woman will be consistent with providing the value that's equivalent to the value that you're supposed to be adding to her based off of what your agreement is, right? So she could easily just say she'll do certain things if you do certain things for her, then switch up on you, right? Another thing to worry about is this, and I'll say this, it's like traditional women, like women who have a traditional old-fashioned mindset. Those women are masculine submissive women. There's a lot of guys out here who think, okay, well, I want to deal with one of the old time women. You know, the women back in the day were better. No, that's because you a simp or you a trick. You get what I'm saying? So back in the day, a woman would be able to trade her body or trade doing what a man says in exchange for him being, for him either trying to love her or in exchange for him providing resources, right? But at the end of the day, it's good D and guidance. If that's not there, that's the crux of nature. That's the crux of female nature. It's like if you give her some good D and she's receptive to your guidance, she's receptive to your dominance, then that is when a woman's going to be feminine and submissive with you, right? So something to understand about these particular scenarios is that, like an old-fashioned traditional type of woman, she's often going to have that type of mindset and mentality to where she is going to be transactional. So some women will say, oh yeah, give him some head. Yeah, have sex with him as much as he wants. But what you got to understand about that is she's saying, but get him to pay all the bills, right? And listen, if you're a man who likes to be a provider, that's dope. You still want to provide for a woman who's going to appreciate that. A masculine submissive woman in this day and age can't appreciate that. It's just like how back in the day somebody could work a plant job for 40 years, appreciate that job, go and get some benefits, go into retirement, and they actually got some money behind just being somebody who does lawn care, being somebody who does like lawn care, or a plant worker, does specific jobs that didn't give them a high level of mental and emotional stimulation. But what you got to understand is that in this modern era, that doesn't work anymore, because there's a lot of emotional overstimulation. There's a lot of simps. There's a lot of tricks. There's a lot of guys out here who are willing to give women things that they don't deserve. Plus, these women oftentimes are sexually overstimulated, which means that back in the day, if a woman was a virgin, she started fucking with her husband, chances are that may be the best pleasure that she's had up until that point in her life. And that man could have waited for marriage and everything. But in this day and age, these women out here having some good sex. They getting some good dick, right? Some good dick. So chances are, if you got a good dick, if you got some good dick yourself, then you already understand how it is out here. So you're not even trying to move like that unless you're a feminine dominant man who needs a woman to take a masculine dominant stance with you, or a masculine submissive stance with you, so that you're finally in a position where you feel like it's worth being able to make that choice, right? So there might be a man says, oh, well, she's a virgin, so I'll do it. Or she's she's beautiful and she holds me to a high standard, so I'll accept some responsibility. It's like, no, if you don't want to do that shit, don't do that shit. What I say is this: you got to have intrinsic desire to do certain shit that's masculine. You have to have intrinsic reward, right? Intrinsic desire to do those things, and you do those things also on a basis of if a woman proves herself worthy of those things. A woman who's masculine submissive isn't trying to prove herself worthy, because chances are she's not going at it with a mindset of, okay, what am I learning? Am I enjoying myself well enough so that I can be prepared and learn the things that are going to be necessary in order for me to adequately operate within this role that I'm trying to play? So there's a lot of women out here who are masculine submissive, to where sometimes they just may be used to being fucked for years at a time, right? With no type of commitment. So then they adopt standards out the blue, just out the wazoo. They adopt some type of standards and boundaries. So, the female dating strategies, so that they can avoid that. But they've never had that. So they don't understand that they're not going to be able to appreciate that. They don't understand that a man trying to lead with love, a man trying to lead with money, a man trying to lead with being overly compromising is something that they're not actually going to enjoy, not actually going to appreciate over an extended period of time. And that's going to limit their respect for that man. It's going to limit their sexual desire for that man. Now, they may be able to trade the sex for the sexual desire if the attraction is high enough. But still, if you say jump, she's not going to ask you how high. She's not just going to go ahead and jump. If you lose your job, you're going to lose your woman. If you hit hard times, she's going to be the fuck up out of there. You get what I'm saying? These are just some things to understand. And even if she sticks around when you go through hard times, chances are she's going to build up a certain level of resentment, because she's going to feel obligated. She's going to build up a certain level of resentment, entitlement, that'll lead to spite. She probably going to cheat on your ass because she feels like she's earned the right to go get her some other dick, because your dick wasn't really doing it for her. And oftentimes it may not even be your actual dick or your actual skill set sexually. Oftentimes it's just the mindset, the transactional mindset that you take to sexuality that limits a woman's ability to have orgasms, right? Oftentimes that's a big factor in it. It's a big factor in it. Like, there's a reason that you need to deal with women who are feminine and submissive with you rather than women who are masculine and submissive. Even if you feel like you have the resources to be in a transactional type of relationship, that doesn't mean that that's the choice that you should make. If you're going to be transactional, it's illegal. So that's on you if you want to make that choice. It's illegal, right? But if you really want to be transactional about sex, be directly transactional and keep that to a confined short period of time and space. But even then, I'm not the biggest fan of that, because you can put yourself in a perspective to where you can become overstimulated with a woman who's feminine dominant, or you can become overstimulated with a woman who's dominant with you, right? And then you may encounter women who are more attractive than you can find who are feminine and submissive with you based off of your game and your skill level. You can find women who are willing to fake orgasms, right, to boost your ego, which can make you unsatisfied with the woman who's really treating you according to your skill level, right? You can also put yourself in a situation where you're dealing with women who have some serious issues that are toxic, right? And sometimes those toxic women, if you don't have the proper mentality, then you could go from being masculine submissive to feminine submissive, right? So you could become feminine submissive as a man. So let's say that woman starts manipulating you. Let's say that woman starts becoming inconsistent with you. Let's say that woman starts playing games, playing with your mind, playing with your head, being toxic. Next thing you know, now you're emotional about your desire for her, and however she brings it to you, you're going to take it. Now, let's say instead of being feminine submissive, you decide to be feminine dominant, right? With that next woman. But this is a woman who is a crazy woman you being feminine dominant with. So she's going to coerce you, or she's not coerce you, but she's going to manipulate you into being reactionary, into reactionary abuse. And then she's going to play the victim, toxic femininity, right? It's toxic femininity. So when you find yourself in that particular type of situation, now your ass might end up dead or in jail. There's a reason why you need to deal with feminine submissive women and not masculine submissive women, right? What you got to understand is that dick is a gift, right? You don't trade anything to have access to a woman sexually. I don't care if it's a date. I don't care if it's just getting to know her, quote unquote. I don't care what it is. If that woman ain't sexually attracted enough to you to fuck with you off the strength, get your game right so that you can tell if she's one of those women. But you got to get your game right. The money you're going to spend on a woman, spend it on getting you a dating coach. There's plenty of them out there, man. Some good ones. Go ahead, get you some game. After you go get you some game, all right, cool. Now, you ain't got to spend that money on a woman. You can spend that money on yourself, improving yourself. And then when a woman shows herself worthy of that, then you can invest that in her, right? So what you got to understand is that there's different things when it comes to masculine submissive women. There's different things when it comes to it. And it's not always transactional as far as money. A masculine submissive woman will spend money on you to divert your attention from the fact that you want to have sex with her. So a masculine submissive woman, sometimes she'll spend money on you being a nice girl, but really she's spending that money so that you don't feel as much of a sense of urgency to make sure that you're developing sexual compatibility and sexual chemistry. There's some niggas out there who've experienced that. Now, some men, they've never experienced that. So when they experience that, it's like, oh, she talks to me and she talks to me nice. She treats me nice. And, and she spends money on me and she's there for me. She cooks for me. She cleans for me. It's like, no, there's something that she wants out of it. And if you don't know what a woman wants out of it, and if what she desires from you is not your masculinity and your dominance and things that are masculine, she desires things that are feminine, right? If that's what she desires from you, understand that shit's going to come back and bite you in your ass. If you ever have to take a stance that's going to stretch a woman. Masculine submissive women are not comfortable with being stretched. They're not. Right? Another thing is this. If you got a big dick, you can't be dealing with masculine submissive women so much because femininity is what lubricates for domination. If you're a dominant individual, if you got a large penis, like, dealing with a masculine submissive woman will often be a woman who's going to be like, oh, it hurts. Oh, she can't take it. She might try to take it for a little while, but eventually she's going to want to slow down on the sex because she doesn't enjoy the fact that you're stretching her out so much, right? Oftentimes, masculine submissive women are going to be women who like smaller dicks, right? But if she gets duplicitous, if she gets overstimulated with a feminine dominant man, then she's going to be in a situation where she's going to try to be masculine submissive, but it's not going to work. She's going to end up cheating on you, fucking off with some dude who got that BBC. I've been that guy. So I understand how that shit works, right? I understand how that shit works. Another thing will occur, and another thing that's very likely to happen is that when a woman is masculine submissive, she isn't going to be receptive to your guidance and your leadership. And because she's not receptive to your guidance and your leadership, she's going to conflate your instructions with things that are trying to take more out of her social cup, out of her battery, right? So even if you're giving her instructions on things that are meant to benefit her, let's say she has a passion or a purpose or something that she's been planning to do, you can be sitting there for years giving women instructions, said, okay, this is what you need to do to kick up your business. This is what you need to do to put this out, to do this, to do that. Here's what you can do to go get in better shape. Here's what you can do, things to improve herself, right? These are some things you can do to improve yourself. That woman is going to bypass all that shit that you said, and then she's going to wait until y'all not together anymore. And that's when she's going to start doing all those things that you've been telling her about. So it could be some nasty shit. It could be getting in shape. It could be working on her craft or her business. It could be working on herself. She sees working on herself as something she has to do separate from you, because masculine submissiveness oftentimes there's a certain aspect of psychological reactance to where I don't want to do it because you told me to do it. It's just being rebellious. It's being a little bitchy ass brat. That's what happens when you're dealing with masculine submissive women. So what you got to understand is this: you need to deal with women who are feminine submissive with you, right? Which means that they're receptive to your dick, they desire it. They're receptive to your guidance, your leadership, they desire it, right? They respect you as a man, they desire your dick, they desire your leadership, they desire your guidance. They enjoy investing in you, right? And it's not some trick or sleight of hand or nothing like that. Whatever you're trying to give them guidance to do, they'll do it when you say to do it, right? Because what it say in the Bible? Delayed obedience is the same as rebellion. Rebellion is the same as witchcraft, right? What you got to understand about this different stuff is that she will delay the obedience to different things that you've been telling her. So you could have been telling a woman a whole bunch of stuff she could do to improve herself, right? But she's not going to listen to that until you're not in her presence, right? Those are some things to understand. And that could put you in a situation to where she going to wait until y'all not together. Then she going to try to do all the different shit that you've been telling her to do when you were together. And then she's going to try to use that to try to come back into your life as an equal. Even then, shit, if you're going to take her, all right, cool, that's on you. What I say is this, even then you got to tax her. There is no equals. Masculine submissive women are bent on the idea of equals because they get their self-worth and their self-value from feeling like they're equal to you as a man. Although that's something that they don't respect and they don't desire, right? And there are men out there, there are definitely men out there who just want to feel like they're above a woman for their ego's sake, right? But what I say is this, it's not even about the man as much as it's about the woman, right? Yeah, it's partially about the man, right? But a lot of it is really about the woman, how she's going to feel about you, the mindset that she's going to take to doing certain things, right? It's not even really about just saying, oh, I want a woman to do this, I want a woman to do that. You can get a woman who's masculine submissive to do those things for you. Especially if you have that capacity for emotionality, especially if you have that capacity for, you have those resources, you have those different things that a woman could cooperate with. You're a reasonable dude. You know what I mean? You're a logical guy. If you're a logical guy, then you can compromise and make certain understandings and do certain things, right? But you need to take your logic, right? Take your logic and use that logic to put yourself in a position as a man in your mindset to where you have the emotional discipline to be able to handle and lead a woman who's feminine submissive. Because when it comes to two people who are both masculine, you're only going to be able to walk with each other until you reach a fork in the road. Like a big thing that's important to me is for people to be in a situation where they can have sustainable long-term relationships and marriages so that we can have better situations within the black community, right? More sustainable marriages. See, a lot of marriages from back in the day probably didn't need to last. They probably didn't need to, right? But that's how they were going to survive. Plus, there's a lot of ostracization that would come about if people got divorced. You know, they didn't want to feel alienated, so they'll just stick together, and oftentimes they both be cheating on each other, or they might both be beating on each other, or they might both be doing different things that just were unbecoming, that weren't good. The reason why I talk about wanting a woman who's feminine submissive, being masculine and dominant, is because the parable of the fork in the road. If you and that woman are masculine, you're only going to walk forward in the same direction until you reach in the fork in the road. And with all these different prevalent mindsets and ideologies and how prevalent social programming is, to where there's such a big rift between what women think they want and what men think they want, it puts you into a position where it's just a matter of time before that happens. Another reason is because femininity is what lubricates for domination, right? Do you really want to be in a situation with a woman who feels like sex is transactional? You're going to cheat on her. I'm telling you right now, it's just a matter of time before you start feeling like you're denigrating your dominance, because you have to lessen your dominance with femininity, right? Like if you got character, you got to lessen your dominance with femininity in order to be able to operate that woman on some type of consistent basis, right? So you're going to have to be compromising your sex drive. You're going to have to be compromising your desires. You got to compromise. And instead of putting all that energy towards helping both of y'all grow as a person, helping both of y'all grow as a unit, you got to put all that energy towards trying to make the relationship work. You get what I'm saying? And ain't nobody got time to be doing all that shit all the time. That shit gets draining for both parties. You see, it's not just about the woman getting drained. You going to get drained as well. But the crazy part about the woman getting drained is she's not going to see the fact that you're getting drained. Because as a man, she's going to say, well, that's what you decided to do. See, even if a woman's masculine submissive, at the end of the day, that's still a woman. If shit goes left, she's blaming you. It's your fault. So if it's going to be your fault, you need to be the one who's in control. If it's going to be your fault, whether or not you succeed or whether or not you fail. One thing about masculine submissive women is that they'll try to take credit for your success even when they had little to do with it in the grand scheme of it. Right? You could have did that same shit with somebody else. So these are just some things to understand. Like when I'm talking about masculine submissive versus feminine submissive, these are some very important concepts. Men who need a masculine submissive woman are men who have not developed discipline and men who have not developed discipline. And because of that, they find themselves in situations where they need a woman to hold them accountable so that they can move forward in life with some type of consistency. They need a woman who's going to hold them accountable so that they can be in a position where they're not going to just do whatever. And you know what I mean? And sometimes it can be like that. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is this. You got to have certain standards and boundaries and expectations that you set for yourself as a man, certain goals that you plan on reaching, regardless of if that woman is in your life or not. Going in that direction, regardless of what direction she wants to go in. Because some women will say, well, what if he's this? What if he's that? Well, don't be with that nigga then, right? Don't be with him. If you can't be fully feminine submissive with a man, don't be with his ass. Now, if you see you have a capacity to, that you desire him, you respect him, you want to be with him, it's just hard for you, then you got to understand that there's going to be some breaking and some shaking in your mindset, and that shit's going to hurt a little bit at first. And if you feel like that little bit of hurt that you experience going through those mindsets, or those spontaneous things that he going to have to do, or those things that's going to shake shit up, if you feel like a little bit of trauma bonding is too bad for you, and I know people got such a bad rap for trauma bonding, I'm like, no, listen. Like, when it comes to life, do you think you're never going to experience trauma with somebody, right? Ever? Do you think you're really going to make it all the way through life, be in a relationship or a marriage for years on top of years on top of years, and neither one of you is ever going to do anything to hurt the other person, right? Do you think that it's never going to be a situation where life is just going to throw some shit at your relationship that's going to make things difficult? No, that's unrealistic. You got to get this modern mentality out your head because it's going to fuck you up. So yeah, a certain level of trauma bonding is important. You don't want that trauma to be that you out here beating her ass and cheating on her like crazy. You know, I'm not talking about telling her what's up, telling her the real, say, listen, I'm about to go do some other shit. Because the thing about it is this, a woman who's masculine submissive, if you're a dominant man, she's not going to be able to meet your full sex drive. She's not going to be able to meet your full sexual needs. So that means you're going to have to develop a Madonna whore complex in order to give her credit for not being fully submissive with you. And the women who are fully submissive with you, you're going to treat them like they're hoes. Right? Like, these are just some things that people don't understand. So I'm really just breaking down cooperation versus submission.